2018 is problematic. The left is ruining Christmas. Baby, It's Cold Outside is getting banned? You're listening to the Liberty Talks podcast with Michael Anderson and John Douglas, and special guest, Will Little.
We have to find a way to talk and have dialogue and be tolerant between other views.
You have to have open dialogue, and that's where free speech is so important.
Consent's a very important thing, and today in the Me Too movement, it's been very important because I think it's really opened up a lot of eyes.
I think we should get away from this hookup culture and get back to relationships, because when you have a relationship, you have that communication, you have that connection.
If you committed sexual assault, it doesn't matter when it was, you should be held accountable for that. However, we have to make sure that we actually make sure they committed sexual assault, and we have to make sure that all allegations are verified.
They'll put in these programs thinking that it'll help everyone, but what they forget is that the pathway to hell is paved with good intentions.
And I think that's what this whole movement is all about anyways, is trying to be open to ideas. "2018 is problematic." That's what we're saying here today on the Liberty Talks podcast. I don't know if you guys heard about this, but Baby It's Cold Outside is being banned from radio stations. Apparently, to the left, Rudolph is offensive, and along with the Peanuts gang and all sorts of stuff. So, John, what do you think about this?
Yeah, what I think is that we as a country need to just take Christmas itself and censor the entire thing. No one should be allowed to see anything that has anything to do with Christmas anymore, because that's religious and that can offend people. I think we need to censor all of it.
Including candy canes. But wait, we did that too! Apparently, a principal banned candy canes because the J shape is for Jesus. I think the red was for the blood of Christ and white is for sins or something like this. Like, what is this ridiculousness?
Well, it's kind of amazing, and that's actually problematic for a high school to ban candy canes because of religious connotations, because then that means that the school itself is taking a stance on religion, and that is anti-religion, which in of itself is a problem and a violation of separation of church and state, because now the school, which is funded by the government, is now taking a stance on church and saying that they're not going to allow it. So in reality, they actually are not allowed to do that, because now that they have taken a position, they are infringing on other people's right to free speech and right to worship and showing favoritism to those who are not Christian or who do not celebrate Christmas.
You know what? Maybe it's just because I grew up in America. I'm a Christian and a cultural conservative, but I always thought that Christmas symbols like candy cane, Santa, and elves were more secular than religious. You don't read the Bible and read about Santa Claus or Kris Kringle and elves and stuff. This is imaginative stuff.
Right, but you're not woke, Michael. Elves make fun of people with dwarfism. Don't you see it's discriminatory?
I'm just really confused about the candy cane thing in general, because I thought the Obama administration already banned all candy from schools during Michelle Obama's health campaign. So I thought that had already been an issue taken care of.
Yes, my class was hit the hardest. We suffered. We lost our Chick-fil-A and Papa John's pizza. That one hurt. But yeah, you're absolutely right. So why do you think the left has this war on Christmas? They want to ban Baby It's Cold Outside. They want to ban candy canes. Now I've heard talks that Rudolph is problematic because it shows discrimination, which is kind of the point of the movie, that you overcome discrimination. But
yeah, I was explaining this to my mom, and I was saying, liberals are mad because they wouldn't let Rudolph play in any reindeer games. And started singing the song a little bit, because that's the point of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer is, yeah, he gets bullied. Yeah, there's the Island of Misfit Toys. But the point is, be yourself, because at the end of the day, only your individuality will get you through these situations, and being yourself is the best thing you can do. You don't want to change.
Right. So I want to hear from everyone, starting with Will. Will, why do you think the left has such a war on Christmas? Why is Christmas such a bad thing?
Yeah, I think getting into that headspace is kind of a tough one to even jump into. But me personally, I think that it's pretty great if, the left wants to jump in and be the Grinch and try to steal Christmas. I just don't think they watch the end of the movie when everyone kind of comes together and celebrates Christmas. So, regardless of what they take care of and whatever meshes that they present, December 25th is still going to happen. And there still will be people going to midnight mass, and there still will be people singing Baby It's Cold Outside at karaoke parties drunk on Christmas Eve. So.
Michael?
Yeah, so, I mean, I never thought there was a war on Christmas to be said. Maybe until 2018 when I started feeling this culture war, is what I'd say. But I do think, I'm a little bit, maybe it's just me, but I'm a little bit, I kind of miss when conservatives were like freaked out about video games rather than liberals being freaked out about Baby It's Cold Outside. We're living in a strange world when the liberals are the ones that are intolerant to new ideas, right? And pop culture. It's a very strange world we're living in 2018.
Well, I would say the reason for that is because the Democratic Party is not a party of liberalism anymore. They're a party of leftism, and there's a major difference. And the biggest difference is that under leftism, religion is a bad thing because it is a heresy. It is at odds with the leftist religion, and the leftist religion is government. And therefore, if you do not follow government, if you do not worship government, you are a heretic. And that's why they hate Christmas so much. That's why you see the left, they always scoff at those ridiculous rubes who celebrate Christmas and who believe in Jesus, those just those weird people out there in the middle of the country. The reason for it is because the only thing that they have in common with each other is government, and they think that government can solve all of our problems. And when they see people who think that God can help us solve our problems, then to them they think that those people are just worshiping the flying spaghetti monster, and they look at them as the crazy people. And I think that's really what it comes down to, is that under the left, since they worship government and leftism, they hate anyone else who actually has any traditional conservative values, who does worship God and who does celebrate Christmas.
I think that the best way to really expose this, and I'll start this by saying I am a Christian. I celebrate Christmas, obviously. But anyone celebrating Kwanzaa or any other religious holiday or Hanukkah does not bother me at all, and I think they all should. So I think everyone should come together, Christians, non-Christians, people that practice Judaism or any other religion, and we should all go buy a small dreidel and just bring them all to school and just spin them all day long on your desk and see if they ban that too. Let's see if the left will really dive in and ban all religious activity in the holiday period.
That would actually be an interesting experiment, and I wouldn't hold my breath. I think that depending on the school, they'd be more than willing to ban anything that has to do with Christmas or religion.
I kind of think this may be a good thing for at least the cultural conservatives and the center right of the American population. I mean, like I've said before, I came from a more liberal family, more classical liberal and cultural conservative family. But over the years, and especially now, my family's like, why are people getting offended over, Baby It's Cold Outside and Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer? Like, this is turning a lot of liberals into conservatives now. You no longer have any classical liberals. You only have people that care about freedom and that actually want to defend their Judeo-Christian values, and they see that as American values.
Well, I want to bring that to the song Baby It's Cold Outside itself, and I want to really have a wider discussion on that. Now, is it just y'all? Whenever I hear the song Baby It's Cold Outside, I think about sexual assault. I think about rape. That's the first thing that comes to my mind every time I hear it. Do y'all experience that?
I think you're being a little facetious there. By no means is that remotely what I think. To be honest, when I hear Baby It's Cold Outside in a very literal way, is growing up, every single year I mentioned people that would go and drink margaritas and get drunk on Christmas Eve. We do not get drunk on Christmas Eve in my family, but we do go to a karaoke night. And so every single Christmas Eve, since I've been a little kid, maybe a teenager, but still a little kid, me and my sister Emily sing Baby It's Cold Outside in Del Pueblo Mexican restaurant in Cypress, Texas. So it's a more positive approach than maybe yours was, John.
So something I always say to everyone I'm talking, because I've been talking to a lot of people about this lately. Baby, it's cold outside. I ask, and John, this doesn't go for you because you don't drink, you don't, smoke, you don't drink, you don't do any of that kind of stuff. So, Will, let me ask you. Oh, Will's over here.
I don't want to be associated with
Square. He's saying John's a square. He's over here making a square. But Will, let me ask you.
All these squares make a circle.
Let me ask you, Will, have you ever been to a party and not said what's in this drink? Like, I mean, maybe it's a weird question, but I feel like if you've never been to a party and said, what's in this drink, like, you're not living. Most people, when they go to parties, people give them a drink, and you're like, oh, what's in this drink? Or how much alcohol is into it?
Sure.
It's a common question because you want to know what you're consuming, what you're putting into your body. How much alcohol is in it? Or what exactly, this tastes good. What's in this drink, you know? So I think that's a really stupid thing to interpret into saying, oh, well, it's date rapey. Like, no, if it was date rapey, they would be like, what's in the hut? And you wouldn't hear him. You wouldn't know more. There would be no more. So, yeah, I remember, look, I've been in choir and singing in musicals and stuff like that. So being in choir, like, the last few years, I can remember people making fun of Baby It's Cold Outside, saying, oh, it has kind of a creepy vibe to it. But if you look back on it, there's a history behind this song, and what it's about is just the simple husband and wife or couple scenario where, a guy wants to stay out with his wife, go to a Christmas party, and the wife or the girlfriend wants to go home. She doesn't want to stay out anymore. So what are you doing? You're trying to say, hey, stay outside a little bit longer with me. Let's have a little bit of fun. Here's another drink. It's not a bad thing in this Me Too movement. And this is something ridiculous because John and I talked about this on the Isaiah Factor, and we're against the hookup culture. We're against, all these things that are happening during the Me Too movement, and we appreciate it. But the left is taking this and pushing it into a whole new realm.
Well, the song itself is really, it's about courting a woman and how they both love each other, but they're not at that stage yet. And so the man's saying, baby, it's cold outside, meaning you should stay here with me because I want you to be with me. And she says, I ought to go, meaning that the womanly thing for her to do would be to leave, but she doesn't want to as well because she also wants to stay with the guy. It's really about a traditional courtship, but since it's traditional, and it's not actually, I don't think the song has anything to do with sex. It's really just about courting a woman, and since it's traditional, and I think actually goes in line with traditional values, that's another reason why the left hates it, because the left hates tradition. They think they can rebuild the world, society, and culture from the ground up and disregard all tradition.
I also think that, regardless of what people say about the beginning of the song, and he's trying to convince her to say anything, the song ends with both of them making the same excuse why neither of them can leave and singing it in harmony at the same time, and just finishing by saying together, baby, it's cold outside. So whether they want to argue about, the rhetoric at the beginning and what they're frustrated about and how it's weird, at the end, they're both on the same page completely.
So, have you heard about Kevin Hart, guys? Apparently, he was going to be the host of the Oscars, but people brought up old tweets of old anti-gay, anti-LGBT tweets of his from 2009, apparently.
Really, they weren't even that anti-gay or anti-LGBTQ. They were from 10 years ago, and he doesn't want his son to be gay. I don't think it's anti-LGBTQ. I think that's kind of rational because there's a lot of problems that comes with that, a lot of stress that can come with that.
Well, if you really look at it too, it was meant to be a joke. He's a comedian. He's trying to be funny on Twitter. If you read the exact tweet, it talks about something about like, oh, if my son was playing with Barbie dolls with my daughter, I'd break the Barbie doll house over his head. Like, do you really think he's gonna break a house over his son's head? Like, no, it's supposed to be funny, but a few days later, awesome thing I think is kind of funny. Something I think is actually funny is Nick Cannon started tweeting out old tweets from like Amy Schumer and Sarah Silverman of them making anti-gay remarks or similar remarks using the word fag and stuff like that. But it's okay for them.
Michael.
I'm sorry, everyone. I apologize for my insensitive remark.
But really, that's what Hollywood is like now.
That's what they want.
Yeah.
But no, I don't apologize.
Even if you say something like you're not even saying a word, you're just quoting someone else. You've now become a very deeply bad person because you had the gall to even use the word in a quotation context. And that's really what it's about. It's about making sure that you are within Hollywood's leftist purview of the world and that you don't commit a transgression, which is why they're so adamant about making sure that everyone believes in them, everyone agrees with them. Therefore, if you commit a single transgression, no matter how long ago it was, 10 years ago in Kevin Hart's case, then you're a deeply terrible person and we have to ruin your life.
Wait. We have breaking news coming in from the Babylonian Bee. Apparently, the Oscars have a new host. It's going to be Jordan Peterson. What do you think about that? I'm actually kind of down with that. It's not the person they want, but it's the person they deserve, right?
That I would watch that one. That'd be the first one I watched.
I know, right? That would be like, it's just so ironic to see that fun. It's so funny.
Me personally, I don't watch anyways. But I think the most interesting thing about the left is, and about all these issues that we're talking about is, if they really want, individual freedom and everything, then who cares? I mean, this isn't going to be the coolest story ever, but when I was a little kid, my sisters played with Barbies, and I had a G.I. Joe, and, very American. I saved the day all the time. Well, there's plenty of times that with two sisters, Barbie saved the day, my poor G.I. Joe. But, if you really want overall equality and you really want individuals to express themselves, then they should be able to express themselves with whether your kid wants to play with a Barbie, whether he wants to play with a G.I. Joe, or whatever they want to do, they should just be able to do it. And if the left is so tolerant, they should just be fine with it no matter what.
Yeah, and little quick story here. I played with G.I. Joes all the time growing up. I had the big ones and the small little plastic ones. I have some that are still in the box.
That's an interesting fact there, John.
Yeah, I have the first G.I. Joe comes home. It's an expensive one.
There you go.
But
We have a nerd alert.
Yep, that's right. And I'm not going to apologize. But one time when I was a kid, I had a G.I. Joe. It wasn't a real G.I. Joe. It was an off-brand one. And I named him George. And I tied a parachute to him and threw him off my roof. And he broke his leg.
Did you ask him if he wanted to be thrown off the roof first?
I should have, because I broke his leg. I don't think that's what he signed up for.
This is definitely a violation of the NAP. Okay. He's definitely not a libertarian, y'all.
Of course. Anyways, but yeah, going back to the Kevin Hart stuff, the same thing happened to Kyle Murray. Kyle Murray, winner of the Heisman. He wins the Heisman. His greatest achievement in his life, being a football player, that is one of the greatest things you can do. And the AP, well, I don't think it was the AP. Which one was it?
Maybe Washington Post.
It wasn't Washington
Post. I don't want to
Post.
say the wrong thing here, but it was someone like that.
But it was a garbage news outlet. I think we can all agree on that. The first thing they do is go and comb through this guy's Twitter from when he was 13 years old to find a quote-unquote homophobic tweet to destroy his life where he wins the Heisman. I mean, is this the world we want now? This does not make America a better place.
Look, I have two initial reactions to this. One, I think it's absolutely despicable that a news outlet, anyone would really do this to someone that just got an awesome achievement like this, especially from when they were 14 years old. It's so dumb. I think I've listened to many different podcasts, radio stations, people saying, and even like we were talking about it earlier, it's saying like, hey, look, when we were in middle school, the thing to say was like, oh, that's gay, meaning different, And now we've pretty much progressed beyond that. But another reaction is purge your tweets, dumbasses. Like, if you're planning on going into something big and you're going to be someone, purge your tweets. I did it when I became a chapter president of Young Americans for Liberty. Do that stuff. Our own anecdote here at University of Houston, we had a SGA president that said some controversial things on their Twitter, and that got pulled up in the student government election. Like, this is not just 2018. This is the world we live in nowadays. So purge your tweets, people. I mean, it doesn't justify it. Like, the people that go back and try to utilize this stuff, they're stupid, and it's despicable. But people need to be more smart and purge their tweets if they're going to go into public life like this.
And at the same time, be in mind what you do tweet. For example, on my Twitter, I never tweet anything I don't think I'm willing to defend in the future.
Absolutely.
I always make sure that it's something I'll always be willing to defend and it's within my line of beliefs. So it helps me not tweet stupid things. When I do tweet something stupid, I'll think about it and say, well, I don't think I'd be willing to defend that in the future. I'd delete it. That doesn't really happen that much, but it's something to keep in mind of to help protect yourself.
I will say this, boy, our parents were right. I remember being in middle school and my parents telling me, hey, don't put a lot of stuff out there. It's going to be there forever. And I said, oh, yeah, Mom, when you used to send messages on a rock, in Stonehenge. And, of course, all of a sudden, all these people's tweets get referred to. But I will say two things about the Kyler Murray situation. And the first one is, it's funny. He was just a top 10 pick in the MLB draft. He's a great shortstop. Great center fielder, great athlete. And this doesn't come up then. He signs a $5 million deal. Signing bonus with the Oakland A's. This doesn't come out then. Professional baseball teams, business organizations, do not make decisions before they comb through your stuff. So this had been seen probably for a while, and people just thought, okay, a 14-year-old said something dumb, and it hadn't affected him in baseball, hadn't affected him in football, or anything like that. The other thing, I think if you want to really judge Kyler Murray for it, you have to punish him based on the same age he was. So if he was 14 years old and he, tweeted something that he probably shouldn't have, and you just found out about it at 23, fine, take his phone away for a week. But you can't threaten him with real life situations when he didn't say something that was with ill intent.
I would agree with that. I think it's stupid to get offended over something a 14 or a 15-year-old tweets. Look, we're all on Twitter. And if a 14-year-old, 15-year-old started saying how stupid we are because they're a bunch of conservatives or for whatever reason, it would be dumb for you to start getting in a huge Twitter war over them because they're just a stupid high schooler that says something dumb. This happens all the time. And so I think you're right. You have to judge them as a 14-year-old.
You're listening to Liberty Talks Podcast with Michael Anderson and John Douglas. Follow us on Twitter at Michael4Freedom and at Real John Douglas. Subscribe and listen to the show on Spreaker, SoundCloud, and YouTube. Liberty Talks Podcast is brought to you by all of our musician contributors and musical producers, including Shamari and Jarrell Beats.
Welcome back to the Liberty Talks podcast. And now, guys, I want to talk about solutions. 2018 was problematic. We know so because the left keeps telling us. So how can we make 2019 unproblematic?
Be freedom fighters. Obviously. This is Liberty Talks podcast. The reason why we started is to talk to people, but with a liberty-minded solution. So I think it's just like how we talk about a lot. Have open dialogue, talk to people, and try to come up with a real solution like we do on these type of issues. I think that more often than not, when you talk to someone and have a conversation about this type of stuff, you'll be able to find something deeper.
The reason why 2018 is problematic isn't because 2018 is actually problematic. It's because the people that say 2018 is problematic usually have really bad lives and they follow very leftist ideas and don't live actual decent lives that make you happy. If you don't want 2019 to be problematic, actually try to live a decent life. Live a life of morals. Go to church. Pray to God. Try to be a good and moral person. Not just that. We talk about hookup culture a lot. Don't do hookup culture. It's not a satisfying thing. The reason why everyone's so hateful today and why there's so many nihilists is because they don't feel like they live for anything. In 2019, go out there and try to find something to live for. Have a purpose and make your purpose moral. Make sure that you're contributing to society. Be someone who contributes and doesn't take away from.
Yeah, no, I think if there's one thing you can take away from this is go into 2019 being an optimist. You need to go into every single situation with confidence believing in yourself and thinking that things are going to be all right, and they will be. And be the best person you can be. Get involved into something, and you will strive for success, and you will find it.
I think that the most important thing here is a different side perspective of it being problematic. I think it's interesting. I think it's exciting. I think it's cool that it's problematic. I mean, for the longest time in our country's history, things haven't been able to be problematic because there are singular issues that people have had to fight against, right? So right now we're really going through in the past 30 years, and now it's escalated with news media and social media, but this is the first time that we've really been able to have things be problematic, and so we're learning as a country how to solve them. I think that the most important thing, whether you're on the left or whether you're on the right, you need to have real information and have a real argument and make sure that it's something you believe in and that you know about. Don't get caught up in anything that you read, or, we call them, at my house, we call them, headline parrots. Don't read something and just yell at it. Study the issues, know what you believe in, be willing to fight about it, but be able to be knowledgeable enough to have real conversations so that the problematic situation will be still, these situations will be contended and they'll happen, but they'll be resolved. But right now, we don't have any resolutions.
I think what Will is trying to say is that we should not be NPCs. Do not be a non-player character. There are non-player characters on the left, on the right, and even in the libertarian movement. There are libertarians even that just regurgitate the same crap that you hear all over and over and over and over again, but they don't have any substance to it. Libertarians, conservatives, liberals, we have, all of us, everyone, no matter what side of the spectrum on, you need to research, you need to read, you need to find facts that will back your opinions up. And if you can't, then you need to find something that you believe in and that is true. Maybe you change your opinion. That's what we do a lot here on this podcast as well. But yeah, I think that's a general theme that I'm feeling from you, Will.
And these are just the individual things you can do as a person to make 2019 not problematic. There's also things we can do as a nation, and one of them is that we need to stop thinking that every single person that disagrees with us is a terrible human person that's probably going to go to hell. Okay? Just because we disagree with each other doesn't mean that you should hate that person. Doesn't even mean that that person actually has ill will towards you. Me and Michael disagree on a lot of things. I'm usually right, but I don't think of Michael less because of that. And that's important to our country. If we want to live in a country together, we have to know that just because we disagree with each other doesn't mean we hate each other and doesn't mean that we're evil. And that's really what's happened to our country now. Anytime someone disagrees with you, it's not because they just have a difference in policy issue. It's because you're a terrible person. You want to see harm done to them. As long as that keeps happening, every year will be problematic because we'll just hate each other more and more and we'll have less in common.
Let's stay informed, people. We always have to stay informed. Make sure that you don't just read headlines, that you don't just take what the head of your party or what the head leaders of your party say. Look into facts, look into statistics, and try to develop your own point of view. Be an individual, and don't let things get to you. Like John said, don't think that everyone is racist and this is like Hitler and Satan. We have to get past that and realize that we're all human beings, and that at the end of the day, we all are equal and have the same rights and value of life as everyone else. So remember that, and make sure that you try to make 2019 the most optimistic year you can possibly be, and stop getting offended, people.
Yeah, I think that's really, really important. I'm really tired of everyone being offended. I think what we need to start doing when you're in an argument with someone, realize how similar you are. Like if you're at, we go to the University of Houston, Michael, you just graduated, but if you're in a college classroom and you're arguing about something specific and it's really getting heated, remember that you are in the same spot in life and you are in the same class, and think of those similarities. Yeah, your life might look different outwards, and maybe your journey to get there was different or harder or easier from other people, but regardless, you are still in that same place as other people. And I think that we have way more in common than we have different. And the other thing, random, I know we're closing out. I'm sorry. I want to thank y'all both for having me on. This was a ton of fun. Listening to John's hot takes behind the scene was interesting for sure. But I want to thank Cruz family. I want to thank Michael. I want to thank John for all of this. This has been great. Also, random side note, I want to thank my girlfriend's brother, Ben. Me and Ben have been talking about being on a podcast for like 3 years now. So what's up, Ben? I did it. I beat you.
There you go. Well, hey, Will, where can we find you at? On Twitter, on Facebook? Where can our listeners find you to learn more about you?
Yeah, so my Facebook is William David Little. That is my name. I am actually pulling up my Twitter handle right now. My Twitter handle is at WDLittle3. And I'm not the most interesting follow of all time, but I might say something funny every once in a while.
So, guys, that's it tonight. We're wrapping up for the Liberty Talks podcast. Try to make 2019 less problematic than 2018. And subscribe, like, turn on notifications, everything, all that. Share the podcast out. Thanks a lot, y'all. Have a wonderful evening and a wonderful holiday time.
Merry Christmas.